boss.
Oh, I am?
Yeah, you're in charge. You're in charge of everything.
I don't want to be in charge.
Well.
My phone's on 2%, so I was trying to get my last little text out. I don't have a lot of voice, so I won't need to talk.
You're in charge. You're in charge.
Definitely want you.
Let's be really clear. You are the boss.
Good evening, Louisville, Kentucky. It's your boo, Miss Naughty here at Power 106.3 FM KY Radio. We are live from Meeting in the Ladies Room KY Radio here on Power 106.3. You can also find us on www.kyheartmedia.com. That is www.kyheartmedia.com. We are live, and we've got some special guests in the building, y'all. So today, we were going to have this conversation last week, but of course, being a lawyer, things happen. You get busy, last minute this. But I was cool. I was like, I got this. I'm going to do a quick live, and then I'm getting out of here. I'm going to say some things. Well, see, now, because you let me, I was able to say some things I had on my chest, and I got them off my chest. I was like, you know what? I needed to go and get that off my chest, and then I'm going home. That's what I'm going to do tonight. So it was all gravy. But today, y'all, we are talking protests. We are talking community. We're talking events. We are talking about Breonna Taylor, David McAtee. We are here with the Louisville Bell Project and Kentucky Alliance
Against Racist and Political Repression.
Boom. I ain't going to get all that, y'all. Y'all know I am not about to be able to remember all of that. We're going to give it an acronym. I'm just saying. So we've got in the building Ted Schaus and Miss Shamika Parrish-Wright. They are here to talk with me because we've had some incidents that have involved some of my Power 106 family and team, and I've been in contact with them and was like, we need to do a show. We need to do an actual show to talk about and get some factual information out, because it's crazy how the narrative, it keeps trying to be twisted, and I'm just like, this is nuts. So I want to use my platform to get information out. So what I need you to do, if you are watching live on Facebook or Instagram, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. But I need you to share the lives. I need y'all to share. I need y'all to tag people. I need you guys to comment, because we are going to start having the conversation, and we want to get you guys' input. But I want us to be able to get this information out. So I need you guys to share this live for me. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and let them get start. So Ms. Shamika, we'll let you ladies go first, and you can go and introduce yourself.
All right. I'm Shamika Parrish-Wright. So I'm Operations Manager for the Bell Project, and I'm also co-chair of the Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. Our whole idea around holding space was under our Citizens Against Police Abuse. We had started that many moons ago in the late 90s, when the deaths of Adrian Reynolds, Michael Newby, and several others have been. It had plagued our community, police abuse and police brutality. And so when this happened with George Floyd and all the things that came out around Breonna Taylor, even David McAtee, and now, you know, it just made sense for us to figure something out and do this work. We felt like we didn't need to reinvent the wheel. So as a co-chair, and the other co-chairs and I decided, let's do this. We need to keep this right here in our city government space. We need to keep it in the mayor's front porch. We need to protect the West. That was the main idea, is to protect the West End from damage or anything like that, because we know that it wouldn't be restored the way other places would if those things were to happen. So we knew our young people needed a place that they can see as a base to figure things out, to organize, to understand, to protest in every way they can.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Ted Schaus, y'all, he's become like my text buddy through all of this. Every time I want to know something, I'm texting him like, listen, this just happened. What do I need to know? All right, go ahead and introduce yourself, Mr.
So,
Ted.
yes, ma'am. My name is Ted Schaus. I'm a criminal defense lawyer here in Louisville. I've been a lawyer for 21 years. And about 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, I guess I met Shamika.
Yes.
And we sort of hit it off. And for the last 2 years, I've been the pro bono lawyer for the Bail Project. So if somebody posts bond for somebody in Jefferson County, you know, if I got arrested and Shamika came down and posted my bond, and I didn't come back, the county could take her money. They could say, oh, well, you put the money up and he didn't come back, where's your money? In that scenario, what I do is I go to court and say, no, you don't get that money, and here's why. Maybe I was in the hospital, maybe I was in jail on another charge, maybe I was sick, maybe I didn't have a ride, maybe I was out of town, all those reasons. And so I've been representing the Bail Project on cases like that for about 2 years now. Okay. So when the protests started, Shamika asked me to put together a group of, not to put together, but a bunch of people had called, a bunch of lawyers had called and said, hey, I want to volunteer, I want to represent some protesters. And so what I've been doing for the last month is organizing, we're up to about 80 now, we got about 80 volunteer lawyers to represent protesters.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing, because I know we were having a conversation on Sunday that that's one of the things that a lot of people face is after the fact, not actually being able to afford the lawyer, because they already can't afford the bail to even get out, but to have great representation, not mediocre, not lukewarm, not, oh, I'm just here because they're forcing me to. People who literally want to help, be able to help some people be represented. So kudos and hats off to you for stepping up and being a part of this movement as a lawyer, because that is something I would say in our community, we don't trust police and we don't trust lawyers.
No, I agree with that. I think that's not a bad place to begin. But I've been thoroughly impressed by the people who've stepped up. We've got everybody from corporate lawyers, from Yum, KFC, people like that, to folks like me who are real criminal defense lawyers, and everybody in between.
Okay. All right. So let's start this thing off. So in the last 2 weeks, I'm gonna just start with 2 weeks because this thing's been going on.
I believe this is day 34 for me.
We're on week 5. We're in week 5.
I'm gonna say this thing's been going on a little bit longer, but 2 weeks ago, I came into, I've been knowing you for a hot minute, but I came into contact with you because one of my personalities was unjustly arrested for live streaming an incident early morning, like 7 in the morning, and was arrested and given a bunch of charges for basically live streaming, and was told she was inciting a riot, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest. There are about 3 or 4 videos of the incident where you see her little self doing pretty much nothing but saying she did nothing wrong, and whoa, hold on, and that's it. Like, that's all you see her do. When this type of stuff happens, once that person is arrested, what happens after that? Because this is what people don't see. Once the live stream ends, nobody knows really what happens after the fact until that person gets out and then they tell their side of the story, which is their side, and they've got all rights to tell their side. But nobody really knows what the policy is, because everybody starts freaking out, going, hey, let's pony up money for bail, let's do this, and everybody's trying to figure out what to do, and nobody really knows what to do before it happens, while it happens, and after it happens.
That's a great point. So I'll let Ted.
So here's what happens. If you get arrested, you're taken to the jail. And what I would advise the friends and family of someone who's been arrested is just stay calm for a little while. Wait a few hours. So you're taken to the jail. And our jail is, overcrowded, it's understaffed, the staff, we don't have a lot of people who've been there a lot of years. I mean, some officers have been there forever, but a lot of the intake people, a lot of the records people have not been there that long. So you get arrested, you go to jail. If you're on the outside and somebody's been arrested, my advice would be to stay calm and think in terms of like 5 or 6 hours. Don't think you're going to do anything in 30 minutes. Don't think you're going to do anything in an hour or 2 hours. Think in terms of 5 or 6 hours. So you're arrested. You're taken to the jail. You're booked. The fingerprints, photograph, all that stuff. Then, at some point, a pretrial services officer will come and interview you. Those are law enforcement kind of people who come and they ask you a bunch of questions. Where do you live? Who are you married to? Who do you live with? Do you have a job? Give me phone numbers. Give me family. Give me all this stuff. They take all that information and they take your criminal history, and then they come up with a number. And that number determines whether you should be released or not. So it's your criminal history, your background, everything about you, plus the charge you face. So failure to disperse is one kind of charge. Murder is a very different kind of charge. So you're going to get a different number based on that.
Correct.
Most of the protesters in the last 3 days, the overwhelming majority of them have been released on their own recognizance because they got no criminal history. The vast majority, we're about 220 people have been arrested so far in part of the protest, maybe 230. The vast majority of those folks have been ROR, which means released on their own recognizance, which means that our judges have looked at them and their charge and said, yeah, no, you're not a danger to anybody, you're not going to run away, here, go home, here's your court date, September 3rd, September 5th, September 5th, whatever, go home. So after you're arrested, you fingerprinted and booked, pretrial services comes and interviewed you, then they call a judge, and they only call the judges about 3 times a night. So you could sit there for several hours waiting for a judge to be called. And they call the judge on the phone and they say, hey, I got this guy, his name's Ted Schaus, he's been arrested for rioting, failure to disperse, and blocking a highway. He has no criminal history, he's got a house, he's got this, that, and the other thing. The judge is going to say, release him. You're still not going to get out for about 4 or 5 hours. So you're looking at 8, 9 hours in that jail before you get out. So if you get arrested at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, then you might not get out till 3 o'clock in the morning, or later.
Or later.
Or later.
And lately it's been even more because the amount of people they're arresting at the same time delays the process. And I don't know why our court system or our jail system, when people are arrested, don't have a separate way to process those who more likely will be ROR, like Ted is saying, so that it's an easier turnaround process. But right now, it can take you we've seen people, we've even paid a bill for that have stayed overnight. And so I appreciate you doing this because it needs to be a lot of clarity around this process. When we say ROR, we mean that they're released on their own recognizance, meaning that there's no fee, but there's still an administrative process for them to be released. And so that saying that says it's easy to get in and it's hard to get out is really, really true. Mm-hmm. And so, like Ted said, there's bail setting at different points, and you could have just missed one judge call for bail setting, and then you're waiting, and then the next one comes. And so sometimes we don't even know what the bond amount is. Sometimes someone can sit in there for a few hours before we know if they even have a bond. And so people can also be held on no bond. So if there's other issues and things like that, pre-existing issues, or anything, they can be held on a no bond until they're arraigned. You want to tell them about the arraignment part?
Yeah, so what happens is if you get arrested, if I get arrested right now, it's 8:30, and they didn't get a judge on the phone to set a bond, I would sit in jail until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then I would be taken to arraignment court. And we used to do that in person forever and ever and ever, but now with the Rona, it's all done on a computer and a screen and everything. And that's where you would be taken in front of a judge at 10 o'clock. If it was me, say, and I was a protester and I got arrested, they'd say, Commonwealth of Kentucky versus Ted Schaus. You're charged with rioting, failure to disperse, and obstructing a highway. Enter your plea of not guilty. We'll say you didn't do it. That's fine. I'm going to set a bond on you. And the judge would look at my criminal history and set a bond. You know, I'd probably get ROR. I might get $500 cash, something like that. But that does not happen until 10 o'clock the next day. So to any family members of people who've been arrested as protesters, I would say you really do need to be thinking in terms of 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, not 30 minutes. Not an hour. My phone blew up at 2 o'clock in the morning 2 nights ago. People saying, got arrested 30 minutes ago. What's going on? You know, 2 o'clock in the morning, I was like, you ain't getting out.
You just sitting
2 o'clock in the morning, I was like, you ain't getting out till lunch.
Okay, so we're going to back this thing up a little bit. So here's what I want you guys to explain to people. If you know you're going to take part in the protest, any rallies, anything that there might be a police presence, and considering what's been going on in Louisville, Kentucky, y'all, I'm just saying I don't feel any of it is safe. What do people need to ideally do to prepare for the possibility that something goes left? That the police come, they show up in full tech gear, they start bullying, arresting folk, you know, the things that we've been seeing happen. What can people do to make it a little bit easier, not only on themselves and their families, before they go to these events and things?
So not sounding too premeditated, but you definitely want to be prepared if you plan to be out and protesting as an activist. I've been from DC to many states just doing this work. you dress like you may be locked up. You know, a t-shirt, usually loose clothing. A lot of times they put you in cold cells, so you might want to make sure you have on undergarments to help keep you warm. You might want to have on closed shoes if possible, just to be prepared for the weather, for even if you may be incarcerated. A lot of in our training for civil disobedience, we talk about making sure that you have a number of, because you know, especially with the cell phone age, we don't remember numbers like we did, but we have, you know, we all might have that aunt or grandmother that has the same number, but you want to have a good contact number. But now, if you don't have that memorized, most of the actions have a jail support line number that they've been sharing. My 17-year-old came home 2 weeks ago with the jail support number on her arm, and she said, "Mom, I went to this protest. It was in the Highlands. Here's what, you know, here's the number they gave us. They told us to call." So being prepared is possible. Packing light. Don't bring anything that, you know, it would be hard. I heard you before when we were talking. It was someone had your friend's things, and all they had was their phone. Understanding that even digitally, with digital age and with social media, a lot of social media stuff is ahead of the law, but it doesn't stop it from being, you know, requested, and it doesn't stop people from going through your phones and things like that. So making sure you have a PIN on your phone, making sure you erase any apps that might give information that you don't want out there. Just treating it as you're going to be tried and prosecuted on the same day, because you just don't know, especially with the uptick of how a lot of people are being arrested on bogus. I mean, I think a lot of it is bogus anyway, but we had a person who laid down in the street and got a rioting charge, and she laid down because of the tear gas. And so because of that, those kind of things, you want to be prepared for whatever you can and have good representation on deck. Those jail support lines are usually connected to people like myself and my team and other people who do this kind of work, where we're directly in contact with the attorneys that we work with, and where they would make sure that we're monitoring. So like Ted was saying, some people have different access to the systems, the jail systems, or being able to look into, because you know, we have an X jail, which is the public facing system, but even that doesn't get maybe updated as much as something maybe CourtNet. So we have a team of people that are looking at every one of those systems and making sure we can see if Johnny has been arrested, if he's showing up in the system. Because if he isn't showing up in the system, and he, like Ted said, called him a half an hour ago, but you are his aunt and you go check, you don't see him in the public facing system, that means he probably hasn't even been processed yet. So with them arresting so many people, processing can take even longer. So just kind of being mindful of that, understanding your risk level. Like when I talked to the marchers the other day, I said, those of you who are going on this march, if you've already been arrested and you're out or ROR, your risk level is different if you're rearrested, right? So even if they get a really kind judge who says, you know what, I'm going to drop those protest charges, but then you get another one on top of another one, that complicates your case and things like that. So just people being mindful of their risk level. If you have health conditions, you need to take pertinent medications. Understanding while sitting there waiting 8 to 12 to 14 hours, you won't get anything that you need, and you may not get anything until you're released. Understanding that a lot of protesters complain that they're put in dirty conditions, that they're not giving supplies, that they're and some people have been on their cycle. Some women have, and not getting the supplies they need. Some people have sat there so long that they've used the bathroom on themselves, and they just sit there and they're stuck. There's no kind things happening in the jail, and just to be clear, it's punitive the way that it's set up. You got to pray for humane conditions, and so if you're someone that is immune compromised, you have open sores, you have things like that, those are things you want to consider before you put your level of engagement to the point that you may get arrested. So maybe when they give that warning or you see them coming, you might want to be the one to say, look, at this point, I can't participate because I won't get my high blood pressure medication, and then something can happen to me. Because you don't want to depend on a system that is created to be punitive, because that means you're not a priority to them when you get locked up. I mean, that's something that
Yeah, I agree with everything Shamika just said. I would say if you've got diabetes, you probably don't want to get arrested if you have a choice. If you're a protester and you're out there protesting, diabetes is a big one I see all the time. You are not going to get your medicine, you're not going to get your insulin, you are not going to get the food, you're not going to get the sugar you need. So sugar diabetes is certainly a big one. And I would advise anybody with diabetes to think really long and hard if they want to put themselves in a position where they're going to get arrested, because that's what I've seen it a lot. The only other thing I would add, immunocompromised, everything Shamika said is absolutely right, but one thing I would add is you really, really, really don't want to get arrested with a gun on you. You really want to think very long and very hard, unless you've got a concealed carry permit and the gun is registered in your name and you've got the paperwork on you. The police and the judges do not take kindly to that, even though it might be completely legal. Having a gun on you is something you really want to think about before you go on to a protest. And I'm not advising you one way or the other. I'm not saying don't do it or do it. I'm just saying it's the kind of thing you want to do very intentionally. You want to be mindful of. You want to know what you're doing if you have a firearm on you and you come in contact with the police, because that can go sideways in a whole bunch of ways that I don't even need to get into.
No, we saw what happened with Philandro Castile, and he had paperwork. So even those of you who might have carry, your paperwork and your permits, a lot of times you're treated the same way as someone who doesn't have it until you prove that. We've helped people with the Bail Project who actually had their permits and everything, but may have been traveling through here out of town, and so needed some extra documentation, and they were held up, and they had all these charges that took a long time to deal with. So I say he is exactly right. If the gun is not registered to you, that creates another problem. If you have other things on you that might be considered something you can get a citation or be arrested for, or if you have previous charges where you're not supposed to carry a gun. See, that's the thing and people say, well, the new law doesn't say that if you have a gun and you may have marijuana or something on you, that's now you got a felony. Now you have a whole nother charge. And I know that we are an open carry, stand your ground state. And a lot of people hear those things and they think, oh, it's okay, I can just do this thing. It just changes the level of your engagement when it comes to officers. Your chances of having a non-arrest altercation is very, very low. Usually if you have a gun or if they find anything like that, somebody's going to jail. And so it's just being mindful of that. It's really hard because we're in a gun-toting state, and I'm at some of these protests, and I'm like, and they're like, Shamika, I'm going to carry my gun. I get it. I'm telling you that if you already are out on bond and you have this gun and you're not supposed to have it, that's going to change things. They can up your bail. They can hold you without bail. I mean, it's just going to create a new level. I'm not saying be scared because I don't operate from fear, but we want people to be informed. Right. Be well informed, and it's just what you're saying.
Right. Okay. So now let's talk about during these marches, during these protests, there has been a lot of the pepper balls and rubber bullets, and them tear gassing folk. What are some of the recommendations to be prepared if that happens?
Well, first of all, do you want me to take that one to start, and you jump in? So full disclosure, I'm one of the lawyers representing David McAtee's family in what's about to be a lawsuit, and that lawsuit revolves around pepper balls and all of that. So I just want to make that clear. So my understanding of LMPD policy, the Louisville police policy, is that they're supposed to announce themselves as police officers. They're supposed to warn you before they fire any pepper balls. And they're supposed to begin firing at the ground in front of folks before they raise the guns up and shoot at people. I know, I see your eyes. You're like, huh, that's not
we
what
were
I
out
saw.
there. I was out
That's
there
not
3
what I
times.
saw.
That didn't happen.
I can see your eyes. And is that what you saw out there?
I saw people just being shot at.
Right, and that's what I
saw people being told get on the sidewalk, and then they aim at them and start shooting at them.
Sure.
I've seen
in their face.
I've seen
shoulders, back, head.
Yeah, people with marks and bruising, and people trying to help them. I've seen. I saw there's a picture going around. There's a little girl being pepper sprayed in her face. Like they're walking past this cop, and he literally is. I'm like, are you serious right now?
Right. I'm not gonna.
What you gonna do? Bite your hand and knee? Like
no.
for us, she's like knee high to you. What you gonna do? Bite your knee?
No, I agree. But I'm not going to comment on any specific like that, but I can tell you that that's my understanding of what they're supposed to do. Now, are they doing that in a chaotic situation on the street? I've seen the same images you've seen. I've been out there. I was out there that first Friday night with Shamika. That is not what I saw. But that's what they're supposed to do. But as a practical matter, what are you going to do? You're going to say, hey, you're violating your policies and procedures? No, you're going to turn and run.
You're going to run.
Pepper balls at you.
So we have people out there who have safety training and who are what we call street medics. It doesn't mean that they're nurses, but sometimes some nurses do get off their jobs at hospitals and then come and volunteer as a street medic. And we have kits that people can use to get because a lot of those chemicals are oil based, and so we have things for them to wash out their water. We want to tell people there's this whole thing about milk. If somebody has an allergy and things like that, you don't want to use milk. If milk has been sitting out all day, you don't want to use milk. You don't want to put spoiled milk in somebody's eye. You definitely don't want to put baking soda in somebody's eye because that's abrasive. So you want to make sure that you do. It's a lot of language and information folks can find out about making a safety kit, what we call a safety kit or a medic kit, where that can be applied in case of emergency. When one of the first nights everything jumped off, they were not only shooting pepper bullets, they were shooting live rounds. And so one of the medics treated someone who had a live round go through their leg. I talked to a young lady at Injustice Square Park whose cousin was one of the people shot in her rear with a live round. And so I really felt like LMPD, whoever it was taking this opportunity for them to use all of their toys in their little warehouse and unleash them on the people. It's another method of fear and control, and people were dispersing, and people have been hunted down like dogs. So that's why I say you want to pack light, you want to wear gym shoes, you want to know who you need to contact, you want to use social media as much as we can because it's going to change. So while we have it, use it as much as possible to capture information. We've seen a lot of police officers' badges and names covered up with black tape. I mean, they're coming out here with no regard for somebody falling down in the midst. I was out with State Representative Attica Scott, and they said before curfew, they gave us the curfew time, but they started shooting way before. It was like after 7, and we were right there at the corner of 6th and Liberty of all places. And I had to help her daughter get in my car, and we were stuck in there because after they shot and people started running, the tanks started coming down, and so we had to sit in that car. I was actually stuck again in a car when they did the same thing. This time they had a speaker announcement of some statute or whatever, and then they just unleashed. It was like war in our streets, and it's amazing to me how they saying what we're doing is rioting. I don't think they know the definition of a riot. We haven't rioted one day. There's been an uprising. We don't like what's happening, but that it hasn't been a full blown out riot. I think a lot of that is being pumped up. But I remember being in the car, and I actually did see a water bottle go towards the police. I saw a guy run, and it was like one of those movies where you kind of want the guy to get away because you know he's going to get pummeled. He got away, but and then another guy was still there with the leaf blower that did not have bleach in it. I was sitting right in the car at 6th and Liberty. We couldn't move because the tanks were there. They didn't even know we were in a car. At least 10 to 15 police officers in full riot gear went over there, started kicking him and pummeled him and beat him all down to the ground, and then took his contents in his backpack, dumped it out, no bleach in that leaf blower. We happened to record it, and we shared the video because and that guy actually got released, and he got out, and he thanked us because someone told him we had shared it. He had knots and bruises all over his head. So he didn't even do nothing but use a leaf blower to blow back the tear gas. That was his role in there. And that's the thing when we talk about people who show up for medical support, people who show up knowing that they're going to use those chemicals and bring a leaf blower to blow it back on them. They have on riot gear, face shields, goggles, and everything else. Even if it was bleach in there, that was uncalled for, and it wasn't any in there. They were well protected. We're the ones that are not protected. So we need people to make sure. In some of those kits, there's Vaseline, there's a bottle of water, there's a little kit to put in there to make eye wash. You want to get that oil base off your skin, out of your eyes as much as possible. So those kits are something that a lot of us carry in our backpacks and in our purses to make sure that if something happened, we can treat someone or be able to treat ourselves.
Okay. So I've seen where a lot of people have been telling everybody come prepared with like masks, scarves and stuff,
Earplugs.
goggles, earplugs, things of that nature also. Which of course I'm not gonna tell anybody not to do that also. This is heavy. Okay. So with that being said, since all of this has started, we're going on what, day 35-ish? Something like that.
Yeah.
It's 35-ish. The world is watching Louisville, Kentucky.
Yes.
It is.
Literally, the world is watching Louisville, Kentucky. We have had so many marches, so many rallies, so many planned events, walks, things of that nature. The narrative that they are trying to spin is that it's all been disruptive, riots, violence, just all this crazy stuff. But when you look at independent media or people that just are participating and they're doing these social media live streams and things and pictures and things, you don't see that.
No.
What is it that you want the world to know when you hear that?
Well, that we have to dispel the lies. We cannot continue. That's how all this corruption is here within our police department. And they're using fear and they're using lies. And this thing about tearing up everything, I may have saw there was damage that one night, but all of this is just, they want to protect the property and the capitalism, but they're not as vigilant about making sure that there's justice for Breonna Taylor. I think that if they really cared about all of this, they would ask our mayor, ask our police department. Before we even talked about defunding the police, we said, fire the 3 people that murdered her. And that's it. Stay focused on that, because that's why people are out, because they haven't seen justice. And when you have people who are sworn to protect and serve and they're not doing that, and they violate someone's right in their home where they're supposed to be safe, and then you're telling the rest of us to go home, and none of us feel safe from our police department. And that's a problem, and they don't want to deal with that. So I feel like this is a distraction when they talk about those things, because the majority of the events and everything that's been happening has been peaceful. There's been uprising. There are people angry. There are people saying things, but they're rightfully so because they're upset. But they have been mostly peaceful, and I think you can't take a few things that may have happened and attach that to everything that's going on. We have not been rioting. We want a revolution. We're uprising because we're tired of the abuse from our police department.
First of all, I think that's a great question. That question you just asked goes to the heart of this whole thing. What is happening? Why is this happening? Why are we on day 35 of continuous peaceful protests? What in the world is going on that we've got this? So your question, I think, is fantastic. I have 3 responses. The first one is, what is going on is we're dealing with almost 400 years of oppression coming to the surface. I mean, that's what's really going on here. But if you want to talk about just the immediate thing, what I would say is my 2 answers to that question are, number 1, when this began, the first line the mayor's office put out was that these were outside agitators, that these folks weren't from Louisville, that they were from somewhere else, that they were here to cause trouble, because God knows we couldn't have any unhappy Louisvillians, could we? We couldn't have any people from here in Jefferson County who were unhappy with the police, who were unhappy with the political structure, who were unhappy with the way things were going, so they must be outsiders. Well, you notice they don't say that anymore. They don't talk about this outside agitator thing anymore because they know that's not true. Yeah, these are Louisvillians who are mad. Okay?
Okay, so hold on, I'm going to pause you right there. That statement happened after they were going in the destruction to the businesses, and they were looting and this, that, and the third.
Yes.
Do you feel that there was a possibility that there was paid outside instigators that came in and started a lot of, like, they sparked the fire?
That is not what the arrests show. The folks who've been arrested are overwhelmingly from right here. You got a few from Ohio, a few from Tennessee. The vast majority of people arrested, when I say vast majority, I'm talking about like 90% of the people are from right here in either Louisville or Southern Indiana.
Okay.
Okay, so when they say outside agitators, that's not who they're arresting. So I don't know. They're arresting nobody but folks from Louisville. Okay. So I do think most of the people here at these protests are from Louisville, and they're angry. So when the mayor's, when I've looked at these arrest citations, what I've seen is people from Louisville, some Southern Indiana, some Northern Kentucky, maybe some Cincinnati, But we're not talking about folks from St. Louis or Chicago or Florida or California or someplace else. They're what I would consider local folks.
Okay.
And I actually think there was some paid folks because of our thing about protecting the West. We stayed out to help direct traffic, to help keep people out safe. And we noticed that some of the break-ins that were starting to happen in the West End, especially the Kroger's, that was a young white male. Then we talked to some other ones and they told us they were from Shelby County or Radcliffe. They're actually on Facebook Live saying we came all the way down here for that. But I do agree with Ted. Most of the people are arrest records, so that would, to me, would go with what you're saying. The paid ones are good at what they do. If they travel around and this is what they do, they're not going to get caught, right? Some of them are blackface. Some of them know how to get in and out. Some of them just start the fire and then leave.
Right.
But I wouldn't call those real protesters.
No, they're not the real protesters.
No. You're talking about outsiders coming in here to commit crimes and do stuff like that. That's not what I'm talking about. Those are protesters.
Yeah.
But the protesters are people from Louisville. So I think those are two different things.
You're right.
I think that you got these instigators that are coming and they're paid or they just here for the fun of what I can get out of this.
Sure.
I'm about to get a quick come up. But then you got the protesters who are actually have been being peaceful. And then there was a few of them that was angry that was like
after the police started the violence. And that's one thing that we haven't said yet is a lot of times when things change, when the mood change, whenever
the atmosphere.
Yeah, when the atmosphere changed.
When the atmosphere changed, the police got the fool with folks. People started acting out.
That is when you saw people start acting out. Just like letting people express themselves. Let them be who they are. Let them process this. We see that justice is not happening, and that's what. And everybody doesn't have the same level of patience. For somebody, it might be, I'm going to just talk about this or tweet about this or write a letter. But for some people, especially our young people, they're showing up with their body because that's all they got is their body. And they're putting their bodies out there on the line to say, look, I don't agree with this. And I'm going to tell you to your face, Mr. Officer or whoever else, that I don't agree with this. And that's what they were doing. Now, for the police, some of the police officers came through there and said they understood that and did their photo ops and stuff. But some of them, they know that homegrown anger is real. So I think Ted is right. The real protesters have been consistent, have been there, have been showing up. We have people who got released, who got picked up, got released and been showing up every day from the day they were released from jail. Every day they come back. And so that tells me that people are passionate, people want justice, and they can feel like, am I next? If this doesn't happen, if this happened to Breonna Taylor, then it can happen to any of us. For me, I have a 27-year-old daughter, a 23-year-old daughter. That could have been any one of my daughters. It could have been anyone. And to die in your sleep or be waking up to bullets and die like that, and you've done everything right in your life, that people all over the world can relate and understand. That's why what Ted's and you're saying is true. All eyes are on us because people relate to it. People relate to police violence and police brutality and how dangerous and how powerful they've grown and that they use that against the people who pay for them.
Wow. And that's one thing I want to say. I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to say this. This was my second part of that. Ms. Taylor's been dead for over 100 days.
Yes.
I have represented people charged with murder for 21 years. I have represented over 200 people charged with murder. I have seen incredibly complicated investigations wrapped up in 30 days. I have seen complicated cases wrapped up by law enforcement. And when I say wrapped up, I don't mean over, not the trial, I'm not talking about that. I'm saying someone has been arrested and charged, or cleared, or said you didn't do anything wrong, in 30 or 45 days. This has gone on. How long must people wait to get an answer? The Public Integrity Unit, the Louisville Metro Police Department, the State Police, the Attorney General. How much longer are we going to have to wait until we get an answer? And I don't know what the answer is or what the answer ought to be. I'm not going to say what I think it ought to be or what it is or what it should be or what it might be, but there ought to be an answer by now, some answer, after 100 days. I know the Kentucky State Police Crime Lab can do ballistics. We can figure out which gun that bullet came from in less time than this. I know they're backed up, but if they prioritize a case, they can do a ballistics exam in a couple of days. You know, the witness interviews. There aren't really that many witness interviews to do it. I don't want to second guess. I don't want to talk about who they should interview or whatever, but the events of that night, I have seen far more complicated cases closed. And by closed, I mean either cleared or an arrest. Not a trial, not none of that. but an arrest or a clearing in a lot less time than this. So I think it is appropriate for people to go to the political leadership of this community and of this state and say, hey, what's going on? This has gone on for a long time. Where are we on this? And for me, where I'm sitting, and I could be wrong, you all correct me, have you heard a good answer to that question?
No. And we've been clear about the demands, and that's what gets me frustrated with people sometimes. They're like, what are you doing? We've been clear. The mayor understands our demands. The city government understands our demands. We want those officers fired, arrested, and prosecuted, and the other demands that come with that. We want those warrants to be randomly assigned. If all three of us were locked up, our judge assignment would be put in a lottery, and those judges would be randomly selected so that there is more equitably and fairness in this judicial process. The warrant should be the same way. There's no way Judge Mary Shaw should have signed 5 bogus death warrants for Breonna Taylor. I don't think she knew that she was signing it, but the fact that it was such a comfortable process that she didn't feel like she needed to read them all through, and it does seem like a rubber stamp, and that's somebody's life. Being a judge is one of the most serious, important positions that anyone can have. You are making determinations that can stay with someone for the rest of their life. And in Breonna Taylor's case, it cut her life short, and something happened. And that's why we're out here. We're saying, Mayor, we're tired of you saying they're going to sue. So what if they sue? We're paying for all this overtime. We're paying for all these extra equipment and pepper balls and everything else that they're using on us. We're paying for all the extra surveillance of Injustice Square Park. We're already paying for them double time, and they're still being paid. So let them sue, but do what's right by the people. If you had a majority of your community, of your city telling you, the majority says that was wrong, those officers need to be fired, you fire their asses. Like, you don't just not listen to the people and side with the police. So I think the police is bullying him too. The FOP is racist, and they may be scared. He may be scared of them. Maybe they got something on the mayor, but the mayor is not the mayor of the people. He's not a compassionate mayor right now, because that all the families are asking for is justice. They know what the demands are. We can keep repeating them, and that's why we're in Justice Square, because we're like, we're going to keep this here. You're not going to let her be a buried seed. We're going to let this continue to raise up her name.
And let me add to that. Okay, so this is where Shamika and I part company a little bit. There's room for a lot of voices in this, okay? I'm not saying the officers should be fired, charged, indicted, and convicted. I'm not saying that at all. I don't know the answers to any of these questions. I'm a lawyer. I've defended so many people charged with murder, I can't even keep track of them all. What I'm saying is we need to have some answers. I'm not saying convict them. I'm not even saying charge anybody. I'm saying we need some answers, okay? When we talk about what happened here, that's what I think we begin with. I don't know if anybody should be convicted of anything. I spend my life defending people charged with crimes, and so I begin every conversation with, whoa, 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 whoa. We haven't shown anybody's done anything wrong yet, okay? Shamika is my friend. We have known each other for a long time. I work for her. I'm her lawyer. But this is where we probably gotta go get a drink after this. But this is where we part company. What I'm saying is we are entitled to some answers. What is undisputed is that the police killed an innocent woman. Notice I say kill. I don't say murder. I don't say reckless homicide. I'm not using any legal language there. It's undisputed that the police killed an innocent woman. My question is, what happened? What is that all about? How did that happen? And to go 100 days without an answer to that question. I can imagine a world in which maybe nothing went wrong, but come on, I've really got to stretch to get there, okay? But we're entitled, I think, as a people, as a citizens, as a community, to know what the heck went wrong here.
Right.
You know,
and she's a black woman. And
well,
so
right.
for us, we know that black women deaths get swept under the rug. We know that her mother rode around looking for her for hours, came back to her apartment, and the first thing they asked her, they didn't say, hey, your daughter that was murdered, because I'm going to use those words, your daughter that was murdered by us is laying in there. They said to her, was there any domestic disputes between her and Kenneth Walker?
Right.
So I call bull stuff. on that. I say that she was murdered. And I said that they've been trying to cover it up ever since. And I say that if Kenneth Walker did not have his paperwork, did not have a gun to protect that household, he could have been killed too, and we wouldn't even be here because we wouldn't know the story. It would be warrant served, went bad, and that's it. I think it's a reason why they didn't have their cameras on. I'm glad that I work with Couture Hearing. I'm so happy that we have no knock warrants, and we have stipulations around having those cameras on before and after. Anytime you serve a warrant, that should be on there. They didn't have it on. I think it was a raid gone bad. I think, this is me speaking as Shamika Parrish, right, that they've been doing things like this and robbing people who they suspect to be drug dealers, and they didn't have their information correct, and they went in and this was bogus. It was like a botched raid, and someone was killed, and they couldn't slander her name, they couldn't slander her boyfriend. And so now this is a real big issue, because now you killed an angel, but they killed a black woman. And I've been here before with my friend Sam DuBose, who died at a traffic stop for missing a front license plate. So for me, it's personal, and I can't see it no other way, because it continues to happen, especially in the black, brown, and brown.
That's what I was gonna say. So
That's exactly right.
let's switch it to, we're talking about disproportionately that in the black, brown community, that you have these incidents of, they have these warrants or these police traffic stops, what's the words I want to use, because I'm going to piss somebody off with this one.
Do it.
These white community activists that are hunting people down in their communities, or making phone calls, making bogus reports saying there's a black person doing XYZ, and somebody ends up murdered.
Look, it is undeniable that black and brown people's interactions with the police are far more likely to result in the black or brown person being dead at the end of it than it is people that look like me. Look at me. I'm the whitest guy you are ever going to meet in your life. Have you ever met anybody whiter than me? Look at me. Do you think that
I've met some people whiter than
I was going to say, I think I've met a few that are a little bit whiter than you.
Do you think that I am scared when I get pulled over by the police?
No. You don't have that instinct, oh my God, let me call somebody, or let me start my social media. No. That's not your first instinct.
I'm a white guy with a law degree. Do you think what happened at David McAtee's barbecue stand at 26 and Broadway would have happened 2 nights earlier at Jack Fry's at Highland and Bardstown Road, where there were protesters laying in the street? Did they fire pepper balls at those people? The National Guard were there at Highland and Bardstown Road just 2 nights earlier. Nobody got hurt, nothing. But at 26 and Broadway, they called the National Guard and people started shooting guns. Like, that is reality.
Right.
That is not bullshit. That is not made up. That is reality. And if we're not willing to face that reality head on and talk about it openly as a community, and to disagree, I disagree with a lot of things. I mean, she thinks I'm full of shit. Sorry, she thinks I'm wrong about a lot of stuff. But if we can't sit down as people and talk about those things openly and honestly, and talk about the racism of this community, the endemic, systemic racism of this community with some real empathy, then this isn't going to go anywhere.
Well, and I think the thing is that a lot of people, and I hate to say it, the people who are disagreeing with why people are protesting, they act like this is something new. This has been happening for forever.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
This has been happening for forever. This is even what's happening in slavery. Let's go ahead and just put it out there. It just looks a little different. It's happening a little different. We have social media now. So now it's all over the world. Like, things go viral now. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I guess the thing I will want to ask you guys next is, with knowing this is something that's been happening 400-something dang on years to the black, brown people, right? Indigenous people, everybody. If you wasn't white, pretty much, unless you happen to be under the classisms, you know, the socialist classism parts of things, this has been happening since then, as long as we know it, even before slavery, I would say even. I mean, in Europe and other countries, there was socialism and classism. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is something that's been happening for forever. Why is it that when the black, brown people say, yo, we not standing for this. Let us free. Give us free. No, I'm going to quote, give us free.
Right.
Quit playing with us. We are no longer our ancestors. Why is the black and brown people wrong? Because I could have swore the American Revolution, you know, and the Tea Parties and all those wars and Civil Wars and all that stuff that went down was based on the fact that they felt they were being treated or taxed wrong or this, that, and the third, and they didn't want to be under the thumb or under the regimes of certain kings and people. Like, so how is it that if y'all can do it, why can't we do it?
Well, I think one of the founding principles of this country, with all of our high-minded talk of liberty and justice for all, what undergirds all of that, though, is the exploitation of people of color. I mean, that's what undergirds all of it. I mean, you know, I don't want to go too far down. Well, I'll just say it. When there's a discussion about reparations, it's because white people have been living for 250 years in this country, basically getting a bunch of tax-free income because people of color have been doing all this labor, which allows white people to accumulate all this wealth and pass it down from parents to children, parents to children, parents to children for 200 years. But that's like tax-free income. That's like, you know, I make $100,000 a year, but if I've got $50,000 on the side that nobody knows about, that's what white people have gotten the advantage of for 250 years. And so they don't want to give that up. I mean, that's just the reality of that. They don't want to give that up. And so now, when we've got technology and people of color are saying, hey, wait a minute, this has been going on way too long, and now, do you think George Floyd, do you think that case would have gone anywhere but for that young woman's video?
Nowhere.
Do you think anybody would have known anything about that?
No, and that's
because it's happened too much.
It's happening a lot that there's situations, and I mean, this even goes back to Ferguson. This goes back to
this thing right here
Florida.
Is what changes all that.
You know,
that's why I said, and that's why people. It is a lot. It's a big responsibility, but we have to use it, especially while we can. They're looking for ways to shut that down. So we had 2 people who were pulled over the other night. And they were put over around 2 blocks from Injustice Square Park. So 2 blocks from Jefferson Square, and one was told to shut his phone off. And the mom messaged me on Facebook and said, my son's friend was arrested. The cop told him to shut his phone off, made him get out the car. We want to go pick him up. They don't want it on. Why does he have to shut his phone off?
What is he doing wrong? How is it illegal?
Right.
So let's talk about that part. The protesting and things of that nature. What law is there against it?
Oh, that's his department.
Well,
because I'm just gonna do it because it needs to be done.
You know, there's no law against exercising your First Amendment right, as long as you're not.
That's the word I was looking for.
You know, as long as you're saying someplace and not using profanity or threatening somebody or saying, I'm going to hurt you, or cussing, or, you know, the classic is screaming fire in a crowded theater. As long as you're not putting anybody in danger, you can say anything you want out in public. I mean, with those restrictions, like no profanity, no threats, and not putting anybody in danger, say whatever you want. So then it becomes blocking streets, camping in parks. I mean, you know, all those sort of ticky-tack little laws that allow the police to arrest you. Like Shamika was saying, reading them the Riot Act. You stand up there and you say, I'm ordering you to disperse. 1, 2, 3. You haven't dispersed, arrest them. Why are we arresting people for that? Why do you even need to go to jail for that? Why can't you give people a citation? Why can't you just give them a piece of paper and says, you know, well, you block traffic, that's 24. Why do people have to be zip-tied and hauled off to the jail for that? I mean,
because of the fear.
Question.
That's the fear that they use us, and that's the thing. Is what's happened time and time again. People overthrow fear. People get tired and they rise up. And yeah, we may not have as many weapons at this point, or some may have some, and so that's why our young people, being there for our young people is so important for me, and giving them that space, because they have a different approach. They ready. They look at it differently. They're like, I'm gonna put my body here. I don't care, police. You're not gonna scare me. I'm gonna put my body here.
So do you think that the arrest and the tactics that they're using is them trying to fearmonger people into stopping the protesting?
Yes.
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 That wasn't. Yes, I think they're trying to scare
and putting them on home incarceration, and
I think that's why they tore up the park.
Yeah.
To say, well, we'll take your base away from you. We'll take your home base away from you.
Every movement has a base. Every war has a base. Every side has a base. So, you destroy the base.
And you take that away from them. Well, I think that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to break folks. And I'm impressed by the fact that they have failed. So far, they have failed.
Yes. So let's go ahead and talk about Sunday's events. So Saturday, they cleared out the Injustice Park, which we are trying to get renamed to Brianna Square, correct? They took all the supplies, the grills, speakers, equipment, tents. Homeless, of course, have moved in, help over there. Because why not? There's people, food,
and somebody asked me the other day, they was like, where the homeless? I said, here's where I get sensitive, because I've been homeless in this city, on these streets, 2 times, 25 and then 35. It takes a lot to live on the streets. And people who are on the streets are not necessarily like they lack knowledge. They knew that space was, we were holding that space. They knew that it was temporary. They knew, but it was food there. There was medical care. There was medical services. It was safe. It was community there. They can be a part of the protest. Many of them went to Frankfurt for when Until Freedom came in town. 2 buses left from Injustice Square Park. That's the same people that's in the park up in Frankfurt. You know how proud I was walking around seeing all of them there in their wheelchairs, in their walkers, and just coming to show up. So people, first of all, have to stop thinking homelessness equates they're dumb or they're just out of touch or they don't know what's going on.
Or
so
even just mental illness.
It's just mental illness. Then someone who we can, and this is where you split with some of your allies. One of the allies came to me and said, Shamika, why don't you put all the homeless people in the street and let them get the felonies? Send them to St. Matthew's Mall. Let them close down the mall. They ain't doing nothing else. They can get the felonies. I was like, what? Who are you? And just because people are homeless, you don't treat them like that. So the houseless people that have been there understand. So somebody today said to me, where's the homeless people? I said, they do what they're doing. It was gone. We did have 2 buses that helped people sleep that night after it was raided, and then they went. We've been helping make sure they can get connected to the shelters. Some of them went back to wherever they were at. Some of them are sleeping in their cars. But here's the thing. They're gone. And if we do it again, they're back. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it is so important for folks to know that this issue touches people, because homeless people get harassed too. A lot of people we bail out with the Bail Project, over 2,200 people since we started last year. A great deal of them are homeless or couch surfing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because they go and raid those homeless camps.
Sure.
Yes, and that's how they treated that.
So again, I always have 2 responses to everything. I got 2 to this. The first one is, this is a space for people with a whole bunch of different views. Yeah. This is like America. There's a bunch of people with a bunch of different views participating in this, and some people agree and some people disagree, and some people are passionate about one thing and other people say, that doesn't interest me at all. I got this whole other agenda over here. There's room in this for a bunch of people to agree and disagree. But the other thing I wanted to say was, poverty in this country is treated like a crime. Okay? In this community, poverty is treated like a crime. So everything Shamika just said about, and I don't even want to get into that whole thing about sending them out to get the felonies, because that's a totally crazy idea to me, but whatever about that. All I'm trying to say is, poverty is treated like a crime, and if you don't see that, then you don't know what you're looking at.
Right. So they cleared it out. They take everybody's stuff to the dump, the Mo Merriweather Street.
And they put some of it in trash compactors.
Yep. Yes, some of it in trash compactors, and then some of it was put in a big long dumpster.
Yes.
And then they dumped it on the ground so people could shift through it. Then here comes Sunday. Sunday there was a rally, an event at Cox Park. Then in Justice Square they were having something. It was put out what happened. I'm going to say it because I'm proud of the city for this. The city came together. By the time I made it down to Injustice Park for the first time, because I haven't been allowed to be there, I made it down there. I walk up and there is hundreds of cases of water, juice, chips, snacks, tables, candles, signs, everything like it never left. Now I saw the pictures from where they cleared it out after the shooting, which we'll jump back to that, but they cleared it out. What was that experience like for you? Because you were down there with all this happening.
And I had tears in my eyes. I don't like to go live because I can't control my background. I got 6 kids, 2 grandkids. I don't know what you're gonna see. I usually don't do live, but lately I've been doing it. I was so overwhelmed. I had tears in my eyes. I turned on my live, and I showed the community. I showed what I could of what has happened, how people have come together from all walks of life. Like all walks of life, all kinds of businesses, Derby City Gaming, Black Italian. I mean, there's been so many businesses, and it's crazy because a lot of businesses were hurting because of the Rona and everything else, and they have come together in droves and sending carloads and van loads of food and supplies, and we've been able to redistribute a lot of that to people who were houseless, and also all this whole time we've delivered supplies to David McAtee's family. We've been able to give gifts and supplies to Breonna Taylor's mom and family. We've been able to redistribute over 300 prepackaged care bags to our seniors and to people in the West End. The young Urban League Young Professionals have been giving away food at 28th and Broadway at the Kroger's. We were able to help supply that. We've been able to help to supply anybody that's like coming together to do any kind of celebration. But that means that it's the gift that keeps giving. I keep telling people, but I was in tears. I was just overwhelmed because I woke up and I was just like, again, like you wake up and you fight for another day, and then sometimes you get hit so hard and you're like, what am I doing this for? But it reminded me on why it was important to be there and why it was important to do this.
Right. So we're 35 days. We're gonna just say 35 days in.
Yeah, we're here.
And this community. I'm not gonna just say our community in Louisville.
It's our
I'm
community.
gonna speak about Louisville, but worldwide, there's communities and groups of people coming together. So I made a joke, and it's not funny, but it's funny. When you see that the Amish done came out and they protesting, you know something really is going down.
Because they can relate.
I was just like, yo, y'all got the Amish protesting.
Yes.
Like, if that doesn't tell the government something, because you don't see the Amish come out for nothing.
Nope.
They don't get into all this stuff. They don't really get it. You know, they probably are more technological, but because of their beliefs, you don't typically hear them or know about, them really participating in certain things because of their practices and beliefs, right? But they're on the side of a freaking highway protesting.
That's amazing.
I'm just like, the people that you are seeing come together, you have seen the vast majority of people. Like you said, in this city especially, you got majority of people saying what has happened here is so wrong. And I think the thing about it is, in Louisville, we've had these situations where we've had incidents happen, but none that have hit hard like this, because you see these things that happen like in Florida and Ferguson and Minnesota and LA and New York, and we're all like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. But this is here at home. Mm-hmm. So this hit hard, right?
It hit hard.
It hit hard. You got people, St. Matthews, like you said, Chevyville, people getting arrested from all over, and nobody looks the same.
No.
So one of the things I think that needs to be stated is you got more people coming together than you got people hating.
You do. And these 5, it's 5 of us, it's been a team of us. We are the same women who got together when Mike Brown was killed as mothers and said, we don't know what we're going to do, but we need to go to Ferguson and be there with them. And we drove up there, not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times. And guess what? We got pepper sprayed and shot at there when we stayed out beyond the curfew helping people. We showed up. We ended up giving a ride to Mike Brown's cousin, who had just given him a ride the day before he was murdered. And she was telling us. And then I was like, yeah, a lot of people want to call us outside agitators. The people of St. Louis thanked us. The people of Ferguson thanked us and said, thank you for coming here. This has been a problem. They over-policed us. They over-ticketed us. And they thanked us for coming. So, and then when, even with Trayvon Martin, I was in Florida at the time. I went and showed up there. So people think, like, it's always been people who will show up. But the amount of people who tell me, Shamika, this is my first protest. Shamika, my daughter wanted to come down here. I've never been to a protest with her. we can't, you know, those stories are overwhelming. I'm used to the usual suspects because that's what we do. We show up, but the amount of people I have affluent people who call me that are doctors and lawyers and judges and saying, hey, my child's down there, or my kid got arrested protesting, and this their first time. So this issue is just like you said, it's touching everyone. It's touching all of us in a way and I'm so proud of our young people for just standing up for this. Like, it's just amazing. But yeah.
I just echo that. My phone is blown up with people, law professors and all kinds of people saying, you know, my child is down there and I'm concerned, should I be? You know, and I answer their questions. Sometimes they're arrested, sometimes they're not. But I mean, I think this has really cut all the way across our community.
Right. I think it's bringing people together, and I don't feel like that narrative is being stated, that there are more people in kind, people who are now socializing, meeting each other, talking, and helping one another that probably never would have crossed paths ever.
It's beautiful and it's powerful, and I actually think it scares the powers that be. I think it scares LMPD to see, because it's not so much to me the damage that's happening. It's the fact that people are coming together from all walks of life. They're organizing together. They're coming up with plans. They're coming up with new ideas. It's not just us. The interim police chief, we had a meeting before the first time they threatened to tear down the tents on the corner of 6th and Liberty, which I think is so ironic. But we had a meeting there, and he said, he wanted to say you people, but he said, you all don't do this. You don't do this. We said, we don't do what? You all don't usually be in the streets like this. You don't usually do this. When, you know, I said, we're not just the good old little villains. We know we're living this, we're feeling it. And that is, you know, that doesn't mean that we don't care about our city and we don't love it because we're out here. But we're uprising because we're tired. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And we can't keep looking at these deaths and dealing with this because we're internalizing it. So now the Injustice Square Park is giving people an opportunity to let that out. And to me, a smart mayor would understand that and support that. I will say he's been down there about 7 times. After 10 days, we did get some porta potties after complaining. So there's been some concessions, but really the biggest concessions people want is, okay, Ted, they want answers to what happened. And then we also want those officers fired, arrested, and prosecuted.
Okay, so let's talk about what happens to police officers when there's these assaults or murders or deaths that happen, and what is the likelihood of that happening? We've seen time and time again, Rodney King, other, you know, cases in other cities and states where these police, you know, might get a charge, they might get arrested, there's a court case, and there's nothing, there's no conviction. Yeah. Well, majority of the time, you don't even get that.
Well, sure, police officers are the only people in America that if there's a death, it's undisputed that they caused it, whether it's right or wrong. Okay, there's a lot of shootings that are right and a lot of shootings that are wrong. But no matter what happens, they don't have to give a statement to their police integrity unit for 48 hours. They're allowed to get a lawyer before they give that statement. Do you think if I was charged with murder this evening, they'd take me downtown and they'd say, do you want to give a statement or not? I could either invoke my right to remain silent or not. But I'm almost certainly going to jail tonight. Period. Full stop. I'm going to jail. That does not happen for police officers. That's just a fact. And again, if anybody says, well, that's not entirely true, or this, that, and the other, they're wrong. That's just a fact.
That I will say that's an overwhelming fact. So let's talk about Ahmaud Arbery. The situation with him. There were 2 citizens that claimed this guy, you know, was in their neighborhood, and we chased him down, and somebody was filming it, and they quote unquote didn't know it was being filmed, and they shot and killed this man. They weren't charged at first. It seemed like there's this whole little cover-up situation. Sounds a little familiar here. Yep. But then the uprising, upcry, videos going viral, this, that, and the third, and now people are like, wait a minute, what you mean? Like, they're not cops. These aren't cops. These are regular people.
Just folks, just 3 white guys.
Right.
A
father and a son.
Let's be clear, 3 white guys killing a black man. That's what that is.
Basically.
And one was a former prosecutor.
Yeah, former cop.
A former cop, okay. So, now they've been charged. Has anybody taken notes? They got real good and quiet about that.
Yeah, they arrested
after they arrested these guys. You
Yeah.
ain't heard nothing.
Yeah, the last one that had the video.
Video. They arrested him
That
because
has
he
to
gave
go
a
on.
story that apparently didn't equal up.
Well, there's two things about that case. The first one is they didn't get charged until that video leaked out to us,
Right.
to the
The
people.
public.
The prosecutors saw that video and said, "No big deal. We don't care. We don't care." It wasn't until that video got out and the world saw it that those guys were charged.
Correct.
I mean, second of all, whatever my opinion is about that case, whatever I think that video shows, whatever I think ought to happen there, that case isn't going to go to trial for a year. There's no way that case is going to be put in front of a jury for at least a year. There's just, I mean, it's just not. There's way too much pretrial motion practice to do. That's where, you're jockeying for position, but the prosecution and the defense are going to file a bunch of motions. Is that video going to be allowed in? And if so, under what circumstances? My understanding is that one of those guys, the guy that shot the video, gave a statement to the police. Well, there's all kinds of technical issues about whether or not that statement comes in and how and against whom. Are they going to be tried together? All three of them are going to be three separate trials. There's just a whole bunch of questions that are going to have to be answered. And that's going to take at least a year to figure out. I mean, again, I don't think the people, the officers involved in Brown and Taylor, I'm not going to say fired, charged, prosecuted, convicted. I'll say fired right now. They should definitely be fired, okay? Charged, a little harder, and the last two, no. But if the other two officers, along with Hankerson, were fired tonight and charged tomorrow, okay? Tomorrow would be July the 2nd. That case isn't going to trial until a year from Christmas. That's 18 months of pretrial practice.
But we could start to see people feel like that some of the demands are being heard and met, and that might stop, or not even maybe stop, but slow down some of the things that are happening. But right now, like you're not giving the people anything.
There's no answers. There's no transparency to any of this. How long does it take to investigate this event?
Right, it's 100 days plus out.
And how many people does it take? How many different investigations? You've got PIU, you've got LMPD, now you got the Attorney General, the FBI. What's going on here?
Right.
Oh, they went in on the Attorney General for having an engagement during this process.
All I'm saying is
that
may be special. That's
why don't we have any answers yet? Is all I'm saying.
It's
right. So I wanted to tie that back into, because like we saw what happened with like the Rodney King verdict.
Yeah.
We saw that city go up in flames. We've seen other cities go up in flames. And the thing that I think that is being missed is that most of all the protesters are saying that's not what we want to have happen here. But it needs to be handled differently. Why is it that police can get away with killing people all over this world and they are just exempt from this? Like you said, you murder somebody, 9 times out of 10 you're going to jail tonight. Now, the 1 out of 10 is because you're white. And they're going to go, oh, we got to investigate this thing. But let it be somebody black. If we set up and murder somebody, we're going to prison immediately. Right? We all can agree on that.
If we make it to prison.
If we make it.
Ted might be escorted out. We might not make it.
Now, so let's flip that back around. So now there's been this thing about people bearing arms, this, that, and the third. So we had the shooting that happened Saturday at Injustice Square. The gentleman was taken down by people that were around, not by the cops.
No.
There is speculation that there was a cop not so many yards away from this guy, and then you've got these snipers on top of these buildings that have been there since all this has been going on.
Yes.
And nobody took a shot at this guy. This guy has been stated that he has been there on and off this entire time, that people have seen him in different displays of disarray, clothes, no clothes, shoe. But all of a sudden in the last week, he showed up with money, new tent, and then he comes back with a gun. So that leads the questions to all these conspiracy theories about what's going on. So then you go to, they say, oh, they stormed the Capitol with guns. Right? But if they had been black, would the outcome been the same?
But no.
It wouldn't have been the same. So I guess the follow to this is why we're going back to why is there such a difference? Same behaviors, same instances, but outcomes being different. So for example, let's talk about what happened last night. Well, yesterday. So first, Black Lives Matter. Shout outs to them because they took the bridge.
Very brave.
Hey, and made them police work.
Oh, yes.
They put them to work. So shout outs to Black Lives Matter because that banner, they put them to work trying to get that thing down, huh? And the statement was made. They arrested everyone and towed every vehicle. Correct? Okay. We've had people going protesting at state capitals, out in front of mayor's homes, governor's homes. They've hung nooses. They've made threats against these people's families. Have any arrests been made? Not one. Right?
I don't know.
Well, I looked into it. Not one.
Not one.
Not one. But the black, brown, and white protesters who have done the bridge thing, they've been down on Justice Square, they've marched to the mayor's house, they've went to the Capitol, Mitch McConnell,
Yep.
the whole shenanigans. And we see arrests almost 98% of the time, every time one of these incidents happens, correct? So then yesterday, after they took the bridge, there was a motorcade protest in cars, moving cars. Not people walking,
Yep.
people in moving cars, peacefully, correct? There's videos, there's footage, all this. Nobody destroyed anything, nobody hit anyone, nothing of the matter. The motorcade protest ends, some people go back down to Justice Square. Okay, it's 11 o'clock, we gotta pack this thing up, we're getting there, we already got everything to the sidewalk, let's pack it up.
Because we now have a curfew.
A curfew that you cannot be inside the square, right?
Right. After 11.
After 11, so everybody starts packing things up and they move things to the sidewalk and start, finish packing up from there. You had a lot of social influencers, social media, and even media personalities, and reporters, photojournalists, what have you not, that took part of what was going on yesterday. They're all filming, and it seemed to be that they all were targeted and arrested. Some even were tracked down, as she said, like dogs, literally. After they're being told to disperse,
Right.
get on the sidewalk, disperse, leave, they go to do that, and then they're arrested.
Yeah, so they did them on Liberty too.
Yeah.
And they're being now charged with fleeing, inciting riots, resisting arrest.
Yep. I saw a bunch of those charges today.
All kind of different charges. So, shout outs to Shay K. Wolf, folks. She is my morning personality over here at Power 106. Her and another gentleman next to each other filming, doing the exact same thing, helping pack up waters and things of that nature, are filming live. You hear see the officers approaching them, and the officer arresting. She is charged with a Class D felony. He is not. This was, to me, a prime example of treatment to people of different colors, because they were doing the exact same thing at the exact same moment, arrested by the same officers the whole night.
Sure.
He was let out earlier than her. He wasn't given the same charges as her. So, with that being said, during this 35 days of unrest and protesting, even though it's been peaceful for the most 98% part of it all,
Right.
why do you think that there has been such a difference, besides the normal, regular old reasons? But do you think that now, because of the communities coming together, that people are now saying, hold on, wait a minute, y'all see this? Why he get something different than what she got? Which is what we all woke up to today. Like, okay, wait a minute, his mug shot, her mug shot, his charges, her charge. At the same time, they were right there together. So I'll let you take that.
No, I don't think it's changed yet. We're not even close.
Nope. So a lot of
Not even
it
close.
it just shows, and then they go into a judicial system that we're still working to deal with all the baked-in injustices in that. So it starts with these interactions with the police. And often there's a history of charges being stacked on people. We've seen people that have been identified as leaders get way more charges, and they didn't say they were a leader, but they were identified because they show up and there's a consistent face, get higher bails, more charges. You should be able to protest. It is your right, and you should be able to go on and have a life. There's life after activism. There's life after protest. But when you're tagging all of our people, you're taking all their ability to be able to go and run for office or get a weapon legally, or all of these things happen when you have these felonies and these charges that stay with them. It makes it harder for them to navigate later in life. So these things can stay with them for the rest of their life, and it shouldn't be like that. When we had all this, when the civil rights movement happened, it happened to so many people, and so many people were participating. Some got arrested, charged for a job, they went on with their life. But we know how Kentucky is, we know how things stay with you, and so the bigger fight is going to be making sure everyone that was arrested and released stays out of our prison system, because we are an incarceration state. And so the fight is going to be to make sure they get back to court. They'll be looking for any reason to make this even worse for them. But no, there's so many baked in injustices. It's plain to see. We've had young mixed couples come to us and tell us the young white lady was given, what is that thing when you don't go in, a curfew?
Curfew violation.
Curfew violation or something like that, failure to, or some assembly.
Failure to disperse.
Yeah. And
unlawful assembly.
And then unlawful assembly. And her boyfriend would be right with her, and he got rioting and looting and all these other charges when they were right together, and they weren't doing that. Just like I spoke about earlier, someone laying on the ground after being pepper sprayed just picked up, and now they have a rioting charge because they were laying on the ground. So we have to fight through that. That's why the Bail Project is about being innocent until proven guilty, because that's why you need that there. We're about reducing pre-trial incarceration because jail is punitive. Some people's court dates are all the way in September. So, and then you're still a part of Metro Corrections even though you're out on bail. So if something else happens, you could be held. And so maybe somebody is in a car with somebody out on bail, and that person has a gun in the car they don't know about. Everybody in the car is charged with a gun. Now that person that's out on bond is going right back to jail and being held. So it's so many implications. That's why we have to protect, take care of each other, put out good information, let people know what their rights are, and also let them know that we have to be careful after we've had these police interactions.
Right. Okay, so as we were saying, we're really seeing clear differences in charges and things and handling of people that are peacefully protesting happen to be media. So I'm going to talk about specifically on the media side of things. A lot of the independent media have been out here in the streets during this whole situation, right? So with the Brianna thing, we're over 100 days since she was killed, right? We didn't find out the details of what was really happening until almost 40 days ago, right? Right around the same time, George Floyd, all this, like, all kind of combustibly happened, right? Do you think that the people who are social influencers or media outlets, what is it that you suggest that they do to protect themselves?
Me? I was gonna say, one of the things that we were saying, we were watching a live, is that when you feel like you're going to be arrested and you're on live, you feel like it's coming your way, to go ahead and share it and ask someone to screen record it so that it isn't just lost, because we know that Facebook oftentimes works with law enforcement and will remove such said video, and that video could help save you, just like George Floyd's situation. Like Ted said, what if she wasn't there recording that? So we know that those videos changes things. We also know that they have to be careful because they don't know how to deal with social media, and now they're using these tactics to go after these social media influencers because they're scared of it. They're scared of social media. They're scared of the way things can go viral. It is not a good look, and our mayor doesn't like it either, right? Because he's the now president or whatever he is of the Conference of Mayors, he's been selling our city that we're so compassionate. All of these live feeds show that it's not a compassionate city. It's compassionate for the people, because we use compassion, but LMPD, FOP, and our city government doesn't necessarily follow those compassionate. So anyway, telling people to be careful, try to stay together with someone, always try to have a witness, save those videos, delete what you don't have, make sure you have a password on everything that you can have a password on, and know that you don't put your public information out there. Make sure that you're just really being careful, because just know that as soon as you get a following, you can be an instant target.
Password, absolutely. You want all your devices to have a password. Absolutely.
So we're talking screen locks.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I was gonna say, I definitely would recommend having a screen lock so they can't get in your phone and erase nothing.
Oh, absolutely. And second of all, put everything out there.
Yeah.
You got videos, put it out there.
Dump it.
Get it out there. Get it out there on the internet. Get it out there online.
The people are your best defense. They're gonna
If you're shooting real video, get it out there.
Yeah, and I can personally say, with the 2 incidents I've had with Shay K and Amira, shout outs to both those ladies. They were live when their incidents happened, and other people happened to be live, and immediately their social media following reacted and jumped on board. I received phone calls.
That's how we met.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
I received phone calls saying, your people just got locked up, they was live, they just took them down. What?
And that's how we met.
Right. Like, literally, somebody called me, and then I'm like, wait a minute, hold it, because I didn't know what, and like he said, a lot of times we panic, we don't know what to do, because you don't know what to do in that situation if you've never been in it.
Sure.
I'm like, oh my God, the baby's in jail. She's she's one of the babies of the station. She wouldn't hurt a fly.
Right.
She's like a ball of little sunshine. Like, she should have been born in the 70s. Free love and all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, Amira wouldn't, I think if a fly was hurt, she would be trying to figure out how we gonna save the fly and help heal it. Like, the baby ain't gonna make it in jail.
Right.
And so they're immediately, like, everybody, and I'm like,
and you can give directions, and people do it. You can say,
I got on Facebook,
call my mama, call this.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the thing, like we were saying about the writing your information, or making sure somebody knows that you're going to be at these events, and it's a possibility.
That's true.
And having an emergency contact
protest
information.
Absolutely,
right, having some of your information to somebody, so when they're contacting the Bell Project or lawyers or anybody, they have some type of information. But with social media, the great thing about it is, if you see somebody is live, I'm gonna say this, and this is coming dead out my mouth. You see somebody's live and they're in the midst of something, start sharing it. Start telling people to share it, to tag those videos, and like we said, screen record, because if there are people don't know, or the people who are in position that need to know, this is how they'll find out and be able to put things into play a little bit quicker.
I think that's right.
I feel that way, because like last night, I got an immediate phone call. Shay's live. They zip tied her. What? Hold on. So immediately, my first thing was, I text you. I reached out to her kids and her mom. Are y'all safe? That's all I need to know. Y'all safe? All right, I'm reaching out. If this lawyer contacts you, this is his name, talk to him.
Good.
And everybody immediately started sharing, and I'm texting and telling everybody, screen record it, email it to yourselves, because she still was live for a time period.
Yeah.
On her feed, even though she was zip tied, it was still live for a minute, and she was giving directives to her family. They knew what that meant, but they were still like, okay, do we wait for her? They gonna let her go? Like, it's somebody having to say, no, get from down there, get away from there, because they're taking people out of cars, they're locked, they're towing cars, whatnot. And everybody, we were able to be better reactive to the situation, whereas the first time, we all panicked. I'm running, calling him. I done went to the bank, took out all kind of money. I'm like, we got to bail the baby out. But by the time he was like, listen, pause. By 2-3 o'clock, call me back. This is what's going to happen. I was able to relay that to everybody. I was able to reach out to her family and say, okay, this is what's happening.
Right.
We got to wait. And it played out exactly as he said it would.
And that's what we want people to. I'm glad you said that, the waiting part. And then now people with GoFundMe's and Cash Apps, they're like, raise the money now. Our thing, and Ted and I are partners in that, is we want to get people out is the best way we can. If it's ROR, let it be ROR. Use that money that you're raising or you have to pay the bonds. Use that money to help provide supports, because sometimes when people are incarcerated, they can lose their jobs if their job found out. We have people who attended protests, went back to work, and their charges are still pending, but was told they couldn't work, even after they took a COVID test and passed it. So there's other assistance that's needed to come up, and we have a lot of attorneys who are out of work who will take some of these cases from little to no cost, who can help spread this around. So don't necessarily say, oh, wait and see, because most people, we've really had some really good judges who've been releasing a lot of people ROR. I hope it stays like that. I think, and that's a really good thing. So just wait, hold your horses, and find out. You can check. There's a public facing system called XJail. You can check. But Ted and like people like me will know a little quicker because of how they update systems. But just hold it. Wait. Try to keep your people calm. Have one central person that's going to do that main interaction with finding an attorney, making sure bail is paid, making sure somebody's going to pick them up and things like that.
Okay. Now, so let's talk about, okay, they get out. Like we said, they got to go to court eventually.
Yes.
Sure.
Now, like you said, you guys have assembled almost a group of almost 80 lawyers who are helping taking these
Private
cases.
lawyers just volunteered to do it.
So before we get off this live, I want you to give people the information to how they can reach out,
Sure,
or to find out the information. But as a support system, whether you only know a person because of their social media, whether you're family or not, these people have gotten locked up, they've gotten out, they OR'd most of the times.
Right.
9 times out of 10 they've been OR'd out. But now a lot of them have these court dates in September. Some people I've heard have went to protest and lost their jobs.
Yeah.
Right.
Completely lost their jobs.
Yep.
What is it that people can do to support the people who are protesting that have not gotten locked up, but mainly these ones who are getting locked up, who are catching these cases? What is it that they can do to help support that person, but also the group of people that are trying to help these people?
That's a good question.
I'd say to help an individual protester, make sure they're safe, make sure they've got their job. If they don't have a job, if their employer is saying, oh, you got arrested, you went to jail, you're fired, get somebody to help them challenge that, make sure they keep their job, make sure they know what their court dates are, make sure they have a ride to their court date, make sure they have an ability to get there. If they're not hearing from one of these volunteer lawyers, because we're not going to catch everybody, let's be honest. I mean, I'm just going to be honest, there's over 200 people arrested. There's going to be some people who fall through the cracks. My goal is to go to the courthouse on those days when all those cases are and to say, like, hey, do you have a lawyer, do you have a lawyer, do you have a lawyer, do you have a lawyer? But there's going to be a few people who are going to slip through the cracks. So help them find the bail project.
Yeah, I was
Call
going to
the
say,
bail
because he
project.
just described our work. That's what
Right.
we do.
Call
Court
the bail
reminders. We do transportation. We'll pay for lists for them to get to court and back home. We will help them. We've been providing cell phones, emergency housing. We received some money from the Louisville community, the Louisville, not Louisville Bail Fund, the One Louisville Fund.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave us that to extend our services to anyone that's released per the COVID. And also just who we are as an organization. We are national, but we are based locally here, and that's the services we provide. Court reminders, transportation, connection to extended services. People are contacting us now, connecting them to All of Us or None and other organizations that work with rental assistance. I mean, because your life can fall apart. That's the whole point of getting people out as soon as possible. Because the longer you sit there, it's like if we were locked in this building, how long will it take for your life to fall apart? So we want to make sure that people can get back on with their life, be able to fight their case, go on and do the things that they need. So bailproject.org is how they can find out more about what we do. Also, with the Kentucky Alliance, we're on Facebook as well. We are also assisting protesters with direct aid, gift cards, food, anything that we can do to help make sure people, and that's not just for protesters, that's for anyone that is in need that reaches out to us.
Okay. All right. So, is there anything you guys want to mention, talk about? Because we got about 15 more minutes left on the show.
You covered everything.
You actually did.
You did a great job.
Oh, well, thank you. It was important. So let's go ahead.
What about the legal line? Do you know What if they needed to reach out to for attorneys?
Through the Bail Project.
Okay.
They should just call.
So they can call the Bail Project at 502-324-7442.
I will have Ms. Shamika put that in this live's
Yes.
comments. One of the things we are going to be doing here with Power 106, we are going to be teaming up with some of these alliances and projects, and we're going to create an extra page on our website to get these informations out. So you will be able to go to www.kyheartmedia.com. We will be making sure that should be live by this weekend. Hopefully by Sunday we'll have that live on our website with information, some live streams. So I'm going to say this, and I might get in trouble. But oh well, who's going to fire me? If you have a live, if you have had an incident, anything that pertains to what is currently going on here in Louisville, Kentucky, and you want to get your story out, contact me. We are making a commitment to having a platform to get the narrative correctly out there. A lot of the narrative is now being examined under a fine-tooth comb about how things are being reported and put out there, which I'm kind of glad, because it needs to be said and it needs to be looked at. But there is a platform that is trying to keep it honest, and we are independent, and who's going to tell us no? So, contact me. My number is 502-694-0185. It is 502-694-0185. My email is missnaudy.power106fmky@gmail.com. That is msnaudy.power106fmky@gmail.com. I am making a commitment. I've been saying it for weeks now, but I'm going to keep saying it, and I'm going to keep trying to show up or pop up sneakily where I can to put it out there for people to be able to have a place to come and have a say and get this stuff out there, because I don't think this thing is going to end. I think that this is something, the world has changed. And I think that everybody is extremely tired of, as you said, 100 years of oppression, and something's got to give.
I agree.
I totally agree.
All right.
Yeah. So, all right. So, thank you guys for tuning in to Meeting in the Ladies Room KY Radio. We actually are going to go ahead and end it a little earlier. We'll let y'all go ahead and vibe out for the rest of the night to some music. Once again, you can find us at www.kyheartmedia.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube at Meeting in the Ladies Room KY Radio, Power 106 FM KY Radio. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will be back next Wednesday with a group of gentlemen. I can't wait for y'all to hear this show. Now, this show's going to be interesting. But next week we will be back live 8 p.m. Stay tuned. Definitely follow up. We got more shows coming up. Talk to y'all later.
Thank you, man.
Cool.
Very cool.
Is this something you always wanted to do?
Nope.
Oh no, you fell into it.
I told y'all.
Oh, yeah,
My deadbeat partner, he dropped the baby off.
Oh wow.
Oh,